Hello, BookTube. I'm here to do a video for June on the Range, a month-long celebration of Westerns created by Michael K. Vaughan. And I am a co-host again this year. This is the second year. I've been quite remiss of doing videos, but I've been under the weather and for a variety of reasons. And it's getting very hot here, so I do apologize. I'm already like a minute in to the video, and I'm already starting to sweat heavily. So, anyhow, the book that I will be talking about today is a Frank Reed Jr. Book. It's the Frank Reed Jr. with his new steam man in No Man's Land, or On a Mysterious Trail, by Louis Sanarins. Now, this was published in 1892 in the Boys of New York dime novel series, the book that I'm going to talk about. But I'll just briefly just do an overview of dime novels. Started in 1860-ish, early 1860s. It was a new form of publication, very, very cheap paper and book form. For sort of mass market type reading and very popular stuff. And it started out with crime, a lot of westerns, hence it works perfectly for June on the Range. And in 1868, Edward Ellis wrote Frank Reed, the Steam Man of the Plains. Now, that was the first steam man novel, and it spawned like Frank Toosey, another publisher. It spawned a series that Harry Enton started also in 1868. Frank Reed Jr., the son of Frank Reed, and wrote for a number of years, a number of stories. And then Louis Sanarins was took over in 1882, and he expanded the Frank Reed stories a little bit, and did sort of companion type characters as well, other adventures, because these fit under the umbrella of Edisonade fiction, or science fiction, where there's a young inventor, a teenager usually, male, and he invents something that will save the world or save people. That's sort of the rough storyline with this. But Louis Sanarins also started adding things like electricity, airships to the storyline as well. And they were published not under his own name. They were published under no name. Literally, no name was the author. Now, he's been called the American Jules Verne, Louis Sanarins. And so no name kind of fits, because Nemo means nobody. So anyhow, that's sort of the background for this. Louis Sanarins lived from 1863 to 1939. He was a very prolific dime novel author. And dime novels don't exactly mean that they were in novel form so much, in like a published book like this. They were newspapers, and sometimes they were 5 cents. So the price, it's a very, very interesting publishing event or period in American popular fiction. And we are talking very, very popular fiction here for sort of the masses. The book that I read for this is, as I say, Frank Reed Jr. With his new steam man in No Man's Land, or On a Mysterious Trail. And we've got Frank Reed Jr. that's a little older by this time, and he's visiting Chicago, and he gets arrested for kidnap and murder. And he's kind of stuffed for a little while, because he's got the kidnapped woman's purse that he found in a cab. But they eventually find out who he is, and the person who's the fiancé of the kidnapped woman hires him to ask for his help to go search for her because he's convinced where she is in what's called no man's land in the west on the plains. And Frank has a new steam man that he's created, a much more powerful one, but also a metal, like basically a bulletproof carriage that it can pull along through the plains. So it's all equipped that they could stay inside, they can live inside of it for quite a while, and bullets won't get through, or the dreaded Indians, because that's a huge part of this story. And so they go out to this no man's land. But they call it no man's land, but there's ranches. And so they do track down where the woman is kidnapped. They lose. He gets captured, and he has two of his sidekicks, a black ex-slave and an Irishman, and you can just expect the stereotypical depictions of each of those. You've got the Irish person that says begorra every so often, and bejabers frequently, and the black person talking with a sort of, you can imagine with a very bottom lip flopping around. It's very, very racially done as well. And however, there is the redeeming thing is that he treats them as equals, more or less. Not as intelligent as him, but as equals. He doesn't really, and in the previous stories, he doesn't really talk down to them that much. It's not as if they are employees, but he respects them and their abilities. And then we've got, because we're in the West, we have native North American Indians, and that is another very stereotypical point, that they just want to kill all white people, and they're attacking them all the time. They want to scalp them. We don't even get them, they don't even become characters so much, other than a savage, as it's mentioned over and over again. And it's typical of the time. It's high adventure. They're getting into many battles with the Indians and then the kidnappers as well. It is, and the death toll that gets ranked up. I don't know how many people they kill. They kill so many, Indians as well as the kidnappers. It's just, it's quite phenomenal, the body count in these, and they are written for children, because these were published in the sort of a newspaper type, in the Boys of New York dime novel series. And obviously he succeeds in his quest. He extricates the woman, but this is the typical thing with a lot of these stories, and it's carried right on into the 20th century with the serials in the 30s, like the Universal serials and the other serials that were done, where you got your hero usually wanting to extricate somebody that's been kidnapped. They get them out, and then they lose them again, and then there's the recapture, and then they have to extricate them again, and it's your typical thing, story over and over again. And this storyline basically is the same as the previous storyline, or the previous two, and the previous one in here was Frank Reed Jr. and Young Inventor's trip to the Far West, and it's the same type of thing where you've got a ranch out somewhere they've got to extricate somebody from, and it gets burned down, and then they have all these Indian fights, That one had more to do with getting gold, but it's basically the same. It's a tried and true formula that's done, and the writing is not, you can't write home about this. Basically, it's almost like it's one sentence paragraphs pretty well. It's very rare that you get something more than a one sentence paragraph, as you can see. You get a few, but not too many. And it's just very basic. It's just, continuous action all the way through. And it's the type of thing where, as a kid, I could fully imagine a kid enjoying this at the time, and even today, I think. But again, you have to be, wary of the language of the time, the social and cultural references that are a lot of them derogatory. The sexual divisions between men and women. And the murder, the death count in these is very, very high, but that was common at the time. And I could really see, and he clearly knows nothing about the West or what ranchers do or cowboys do. He knows nothing, and it's clearly written for the city boys, the city juveniles, or even men, adults read these as well, mostly men, and it's the city people who would never have gone and ventured outside of the city, so they get their thrills through the dime novels. As I said, that they are very, very popular fiction. I enjoy them because they're important, actually, documents, because they set up the tropes, they set up the themes that come later in many, especially for the westerns. And the next one that I'll be doing is another western, another western dime novel that he really sets up all these types of things that become hallmarks of western fiction, and that are still even written today. There's still echoes of that, and this is the foundation of all this as well. Like right back, starting in 1860. So anyway, these are being reprinted by it doesn't really say. It's a poor way of doing this. This is Ornamental Publishing, and this was reprinted in 2020. And it's the book one, and I don't, for volume one, I'm not sure how many they're going to go through or have done up to this point. And they are print on demand items, and the editorial aspects of setting up everything isn't great. There's a lot of typos in here that you realize, and some of them, you obviously know it's a typo because the word is spelled wrong. But there's times where it's just the wrong word, and I don't know whether it's something that they've transcribed from the original, because it had the original wrong word in there, or it was a typo and it just happened to be a typo that makes it another real word but doesn't fit. It's not enough that it makes it cumbersome. It's just you do notice it, because it's every probably 10 or 15 or 20 pages there's one or two that are in here, and they're usually small things. They're just like things like where you should have a no and it's a not, or something like that, or a not where it should be no. It just, simple things like that. But they are fun, but not. They are hard to take reading them back to back. That is the one thing, because the writing is quite poor. And this is quite long before pulps, the pulp fiction, how it would be referred to, but it's very similar in the same way. It's just mass market, mass popular fiction. Thank you, BookTube. I'll be back with another video shortly.